Hello everyone, it's Space Chaser again. Welcome to another model review video where we look at some of the older models you can get second hand. And today we've got the ABC Models Volvo Ailsa. So ABC Models were Asian Best Collection. They were formed in Hong Kong and they traded briefly between 1999 and 2001. One of the founders was the late Donald Craggs, who went on to form the much better known Britbus company. Most of their output for the 2 years that they were active was Hong Kong prototypes. They did various things: Leyland Victories, Dennis Jubilants, Daimler Fleet Lines, etc, etc. But they did put a toe in the water of the UK market. They did one release of the Daimler Fleet Line in 5 Scottish livery. They did a Leyland Lion in Stockport Corporation Tramways livery, which I've done a review of. I'll put the link to that in the description to this video. And they also did the Volvo Ailsa. Did 10 versions of it for the UK market, plus one version for Hong Kong. So the model I've got today is catalogue number TRA 5002, produced in August 2001. There were 2,000 of them produced, and it's in delivery of Black Prince coaches of Morley near Leeds. And there it is. So I did a brief history of Black Prince coaches in my model review of the Britbus Scania Alexander R-Type. I'll put the link to that video in the description to this one. But for anybody who didn't watch it, Black Prince was formed in 1969 by Brian Crowther and Bert Colley. Brian Crowther became the sole proprietor of it in the 1970s. In 1986 it started to run local services around the hometown of Morley and from there to Leeds. And they built up a network around the Leeds area. And in 2005 they sold to First Leeds. It became part of First Group. So the model we're looking at is a Volvo Ailsa. The Ailsa was developed for the Scottish Bus Group in the early 1970s. The Scottish Bus Group didn't like rear-engined double-deckers, so they wanted a front-engined one that had a front door and could be worked by the driver only. And the model that was suitable was developed by Ailsa Trucks of Irvine in Scotland. Ailsa were very quickly bought by Volvo, so the product became a Volvo Ailsa, but it had, as I say, an engine at the front and a door at the front, and it could be worked by just a driver. Most of them were sold in Scotland, but 50 of them went to West Midlands Passenger Transport Executive, brand new, including the bus that's subject to this model, JOV 748P. So I'll quickly look at the history of that vehicle and then we'll have a look at the model. So JOV 748P was new, as I say, to West Midlands Passenger Transport Executive, PTE, in February of 1976 as fleet number 4748. It was part of a batch of 50. They were all refurbished in the early 1980s to give further service, but in 1987 they were withdrawn as surplus to requirements and non-standard in the fleet. And they were all sold to London Buses for various contracts that London Buses had just acquired. This one was sold to London in August 1987. It initially went into store at Edgware Garage, but in September 1987 it was dug out, painted into the Harrow Buses livery and allocated to Harrow Wheeled Garage for use on the Harrow Buses services, and it was given fleet number V48. In June of 1990 it was withdrawn by London Buses and it was sold in August 1990 to Black Prince, with whom it's modelled here. It was, I think, the 4th Ailsa that Black Prince bought. They went on to run quite a large fleet of them, but unfortunately in 1996 their vehicle authorisation was cut from 100 vehicles to 50 as a result of some maintenance problems, and most of the Ailsas were withdrawn, including this one. It was withdrawn and it was sold for scrap in September of 1996 to Ripley of Carlton. Just before it was sold for scrap it was re-registered PWR 287P and the original registration number was held on to. As you can see from the model, it was Black Prince fleet number 748, and it carried a version of their red and yellow livery with maroon lining. Most vehicles in the Black Prince fleet carried unique versions of the livery. So we'll have a look at the model. The general impression of it is pretty good. It is a very nice model. It's let down by one thing, and unfortunately it's quite a major thing, and that is the top of the front there. I always say in these reviews that the front is the most important part of a bus, because generally speaking if it's in your display case or even on a diorama or layout, it's the part you can see, and obviously the angle we view them from, the upper front, is particularly important, and on this one it doesn't actually capture the look of the real vehicle very well at all. I'll show you in this photograph how it should look. You can see there's quite a lot of metal above the windows, and then the lip at the top is quite thin, whereas on the model, as you can see, there's not enough space between the top of the windows and the actual top of the roof, and the lip is quite thick. It doesn't quite capture the look of the real thing at all, and it's a shame because it lets down what is otherwise a really good model. But anyway, we'll start with the front. So as we've said, that doesn't look particularly great. The windows on this batch of buses were arranged in a V shape, and that is modelled. The actual aperture doesn't appear to be very V-shaped, but the glass, or the glazing should I say, is put in at an angle to capture the look. It doesn't look, again, particularly effective, but it's not too bad, I suppose. West Midlands specified a destination blind that slopes downwards on their buses. The idea being if the sun was on the front of the bus, that the passengers waiting for the vehicle could still read the destination blind. It's kind of half captured here. You've got the framework that gave the shape of the blind, but the blind itself is more or less flat onto the bus. It's not actually angled as it should be. Got little vents there which I think were for the demisters, modelled. The seam line between the two halves of the casting is there, but it's got to go somewhere. It doesn't look too bad. Just while we're on the destination blind area, the destination Pudsey, the 88 route was taken over from Amberley Travel of Pudsey in 1994 by Black Prince. It was generally worked by buses in the blue and cream livery because Amberley had used blue and white, and Black Prince kept a few buses in blue and cream to give some continuity, but it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that a normal red and yellow bus could have worked on there. The number blind is wrong on this vehicle. When West Midlands refurbished these buses in the early 80s, they put a very early version of an electronic flip dot number blind on. It was very, very small. It kind of occupied a little corner at the sort of far edge of the blind area. But most of the vehicles retained it for all their lives. In fact, the side and the rear number blinds were electronic as well. They were all worked by the same console in the cab. So it should have a very small route number, as I say, basically in a corner. What ABC have done is modelled it with winder blinds, and the middle 8, as you can see there, is modelled as if it's not correctly wound, which would be a nice feature on any normal model, but as I say, on this one the blind was electronic, so it didn't have number reels, so it couldn't show a number that was incorrectly displayed like that one. But again, it's one of them things you wouldn't know unless somebody told you, for example, in a model review video. The windscreen is very nice. West Midlands buses had a strange windscreen at the time this one was new. It was arranged with flat glass in a V shape. It was kind of angled back a bit, and it was quite small, and that's all captured really well on this. The windscreen wipers look good. They're separate fittings. And then you've got the rather clumsy looking front end of a Volvo Ailsa, nicely captured. The massive grille. The headlights kind of tucked in at the side. The fog lights on this one in real life have been panelled over, and that's replicated by painting them over in the body colour. And you've got the indicators and side lights. They look a little bit wonky, but they're not too bad. ABC were one of the first manufacturers to do opening engine covers and things, and the grille on this one is supposed to open. As you can see, it's not working correctly on this model. It's sticking. It's only opening part way, and I'm not going to force it because it will just break off. But it's supposed to open to reveal the representation of the engine underneath, the Volvo TD70 engine that these were fitted with. So all in all, the front looks pretty good from the destination blind downwards. It's just the upper front that unfortunately lets the model down, and it is a shame because otherwise than that it's pretty good. So we go on to the side. It captures the look of the Alexander AV body that was fitted to this bus really, really well. The somewhat fussy looking windows, a lot of smaller windows. The front window upstairs there is really, really long, as it was in real life. That is correct. And it's got the representation, as you can see, of the handrail it had along the inside there, looking pretty good. The door, there is a bit of relief to it. It's not just printed. It looks reasonably effective, and it's the 3-leaf door that the Volvo Ailsa had. It had a 3-leaf one, not a 4-leaf, to clear the engine cover inside. There wasn't a lot of room on the platform, and there wasn't room to fit conventional 4-leaf doors. The step looks alright. It's maybe a little bit too thin, but there is some relief to it, which looks quite good. The indicator is partly in relief as well. It looks printed actually when you look at it from a distance, but it's not. It is actually in relief. And there's a little recess there, which is the driver's emergency door control. So again, the windows look pretty good. The hopper vents are nicely represented. The shape of the back window there with the back edge leaning backwards like that is correct. That all looks really good. The back wheels, pretty good as well. The front wheels are posable. You can steer them so it looks like it's going around a corner. They're not quite accurate. I think these vehicles had exposed wheel nuts, and this has got some sort of wheel embellisher or nut ring on it, which isn't quite right. And again, the blind looks more like number reels than an electronic one that it was on the real vehicle. But again, it's not too bad, and you wouldn't know, as I say, unless somebody told you. ABC models and the later Britbus models did suffer from some build quality issues. You can see on this one it's got a cracked pillar just there. One of the window pillars has cracked through. Something to watch if you're taking the bus apart. I mean, I'm not going to take this one apart. It's a display case model, so it should be alright as long as I don't do anything ridiculously stupid with it. But if you're taking it to pieces, obviously there's a risk of that shattering as you're taking the glazing out and stuff. So just watch what you're doing with that if you are taking one to pieces. As I say, generally the side is pretty good. This is where it gets annoying that the upper front is wrong, because the upper rear, which is very similar, is absolutely spot on. And the ABC Fleetline models did for Hong Kong had the Alexander AV bodies, or AD bodies on a Fleetline, sorry. But they had the same front end, and ABC managed to model that really, really well on those buses. Just somehow, although they were doing the same basic body design, they managed to get it wrong on this one. But the rear dome looks really, really good. That captures the look of the rail thing well. Upper deck emergency window split into two as it was in real life. The dividing pillar is actually printed onto the glazing. It's not part of the bodywork, but it looks pretty decent. You've got a representation of the handle there to open it. Registration plate there, I think it was in a recess in real life, but it's just flat printed onto the bus. And again, the rear number blind looks like winder reels rather than electronic, but it doesn't look too bad. The back window there with the seats right up to it as it should be. As you can see on this, the window isn't fitting particularly well. It's kind of resting against the seat, and again, that's what I mean about build quality issues, both with these and with the later Britbus models. The rear lights look quite good. There's a lot of relief to them. They're maybe not quite vivid enough, to be honest. They could do with a little bit of paint just to bring them out. And the bottom of the rear looking really good there. You can't really call it a bumper because there isn't one, but it looks exactly like the real thing did. A nice little feature there, a recess for the fuel filler. On the Ailsa, the fuel tank was at the back, which is a strange design because obviously if it had a rear end shunt, you're likely to puncture the fuel tank. But it was done, I think, to distribute the weight. Obviously with the engine being at the front, there was a lot of weight at the front of the chassis, so I think that's why they put the fuel tanks at the back. But it's a nice feature to see on the model, the little recess for the fuel filler there. Go around to the offside. Again, it looks pretty good. The windows capture the somewhat fussy look of the real body. And again, the massive front window there upstairs. Got the emergency exit there. The handle is correctly in a recess and it's moulded in as well. It looks really good. You've got the coolant filler modelled there, and the vents, they're all moulded in. They're not just printed on, they are in relief. And then the driver's opening door modelled there. Because the Ailsa had a front engine, it wasn't possible to put the normal door from the platform area into the cab. So they had to put an offside driver's door to give the driver access. Some of the buses had a sliding door, but these West Midlands ones had a hinged door. A lot of drivers preferred just to climb over the engine cover from the inside and get in that way rather than to walk around onto the road and climb up. But the door is nicely modelled. The hinges are cast in as well. You've got the driver's signalling window there as well, which looks pretty decent. And the step underneath the door to help the driver get up as well. There are no mirrors actually on this model, but they do come with it. They're in a little bag there to put on yourself so they don't get smashed off in transit. Nice little feature. Look at the roof, nothing much to report, but it does capture the look of the roof of the Alexander AV body really, really well. Quite simple, the panel lines nicely moulded in there. And we go underneath, as you would expect from an ABC and from the later Brit bus. There's quite a lot of detail. You've got a representation there of the fuel tank. I think there are actually two on an Ailsa, but there's only one done there. There is the gearbox and the transmission, and there's the bottom of the Volvo TD70 engine. Chassis members nicely modelled in there. You've got a representation even of the springs modelled on the axle retainers there, and it all looks really, really good. One feature of these ABC models was they were screwed together as well, so you just undo these two screws that you can see and it should come apart. Look at the interior. Another nice feature on these, which manufacturers later adopted as standard, was the fact that different colours were used. So the seats are a different colour to the floor. The seat back grab rails are picked out in silver, as you can see. ABC put drivers in their buses. The driver of this one looking like he's wearing a t-shirt, which was not unknown at Black Prince, so that looks quite realistic. You will notice that there isn't an offside upper deck front seat either, which there wasn't on the real thing. But yeah, very nicely modelled and a nice model overall. As I say, it's a real shame about the front dome. If it wasn't for that, it would be an absolutely cracking model all round, but the rest of it is really, really good. It is just that lets it down. You know, obviously if you park it on the diorama like that, it looks really, really good, but it is just that lets it down. But how much will one of these cost if you want to buy one? Well, I got this one for cheap. Again, regular viewers of mine will not be surprised at that. It came from eBay. It was $35.99, including postage and packing. And that was the cheapest one I could find. Again, you know, regular viewers won't be surprised to learn that. I've had a quick look on eBay for the purposes of the video, and there aren't many of these available at all. Although there were 10 releases for the UK market of different liveries and things, there were very, very, very few available for sale. The only ones I could find were a London Buses one in their standard red livery with the thin white band, and that was £29.99 plus £3.39 postage and packing, so around £34, just under that. For a London version. And the only other ones for sale on eBay when I looked early October 2024 were two Black Prince models. One was £47.49 plus £5.9 postage and packing, so around £52.50, and the other one was £54.99 including postage, and so £55. So that's what you're looking at, and they were the only three models available on eBay when I looked. I'd look at some of the various model dealers, none of them had these available for sale either. So they are very, very scarce. Although they produced a lot of them, as I said, there were 2,000 of this release, and I think indeed of most of the releases they did of it. It just seems that people who bought them have kept hold of them, and they don't seem to come up for sale that often. But when they do, as I've just seen there, the London one tends to be the cheaper one, and the other ones are generally more expensive. So yeah, if you can track one down, it's well worth getting one. It is a nice model, if you can forgive the upper front, as I say. But as always, thank you for joining me. Take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.